Alright, hey, this is Omega here, and so I'm back from the racetrack. So this is kind of like the after-action review for the for today's Wednesday night drags. Okay, so this is the second Wednesday night drags of the season, and this is my first drag race of the year. Okay, this is Hayes Omega is I like to call myself an amateur motorcycle racer. So this is my second race of the year. Okay, my first race was a hair scramble, the Lazy Bum hair scramble, and that was before the pandemic happened and all that stuff. And then this is my second race, the Wednesday night drag. So I did it on this guy. Okay, so this is my first time riding the BAC 2000 powered Lightspeed battery powered Suron Light B. Okay, so this is the first time I raced it in a drag race since I've upgraded the bike basically. And then so I took this bike last year to the racetrack, and I almost won. Okay, I almost won, and it was very consistent. And you'll see when we look at the time, I'm just gonna kind of read the time slips off to you, but you'll see that the bike was actually pretty consistent tonight. But there was when I got there, there was kind of like a lot of traffic. I wanted to leave a little bit earlier. The gates open at 3. It was a little bit different than usual. We had to go we had to get out of the van and sign the waiver, and then we had to wear the mask the whole time, and then we had to sign some kind of COVID-19 waiver thing, the liability waiver. So went and go ahead and did that. So yeah, it was different. It was a little different. And then I paid at the little ticket booth, and I got my little drag racing ticket and my tech form. And then we went. So I got there. I had actually gotten there right on time. I got it there right when they started letting people in. Usually there's a lot of traffic on that kind of freeway that heads to the racetrack, and there was a little bit. I would say 3/4 of a mile of traffic, kind of slow creeping traffic up until you get to the turn where you go to the racetrack. So I was a little worried. That's why I wanted to leave a little early. But actually, by the time I had pulled into the racetrack, they were already letting people in. They had just been letting people in, and then I was able to get into the early tech line. So yeah, it was good. There was a lot of cars. And that's the reason why it took so long, and that's why I didn't get a third practice run. I think had I gotten a third practice run, I probably would have done better tonight. Is what I'm gonna say. Okay, so yeah, so we get there. I download the bike, and then we go, and then we do the first run. And just more and more people keep on pouring in. Lots of people racing tonight. So like we had to wait a long time between runs. Okay. All right, so let's go over how everything went. So I'll tell you this: the first run was the most interesting. Usually the first run is my best run of the day, and that was today's. That was the case for today. So, all right. So on my first run, I got a 19.197, like a 19.2. So I'll tell you this: my goal for the bike was to hit 20s, like 20, maybe get below 20, and I already did it on the first run. Can you believe it? So I got really lucky on the first run. There was a tailwind. Okay, I had never, ever since I've been racing at Sonoma Raceway, I've never seen a freaking tailwind. Okay, never. Like you generally, like the first run of the day is the wind is like the calmest. So the wind affects this bike a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, and you'll see that in the next 2 runs. Okay, so yeah, the first run there was a tailwind, and I got a 19.2, and I got a pretty good launch. So I was doing the regen dump launch that I was talking about earlier, and it works. It works pretty good. Now the problem with this bike, and I'm gonna talk about that like when we get to the improves, is that like it takes off really slow. So there has to be a way we can like get it to ramp up the power faster. You want as much power to the you want to get as much power to the ground as fast as possible without popping a wheelie. Okay, now I'd imagine this would probably pop a wheelie pretty fast if it did have all that power. So yeah. So for the first run we got a 0.188 reaction time. That's actually not too bad. That's pretty good. And we got a time of 19.197, 19.2. Just call that 9.2. So this is a 19-second bike now. You want to know how slow this bike was before? So on the night that I almost beat everybody, I was pulling 28 seconds on this bike. Okay, so 10-second difference from before we modded the bike till after we modded the bike. So all I can say is all that money that I dumped into the controller and the battery, it paid off because we got 10 seconds faster. Can you believe that? You know what's funny? I was looking at a Scion XB. It was a couple lanes over, and that was running 19s. I was like, dude, I'm about as fast as a Scion XB. So when I say that's like, wow, that's actually not too bad. You think about it. So yeah. So the first run I got a 19.19, and our miles per hour at the end was 69. I think I'm not really sure. There's a miles per hour here. I think that's the quarter mile. How fast it is on the quarter mile, and then they have another one at the end. So, but we hit 69 at the end. So we were 69 miles an hour. It says. So yeah. I mean, I know I can do 77 miles an hour on this if the conditions are right. So I'm not surprised that it hit 70, but yeah. Okay, so that was the first run. That was the best run. I'm gonna keep this and frame it or something. It was a very rare instance where like there was a tailwind, because usually there's no tailwind at Sonoma. It's just like usually there'll be a headwind. It'll be strong or not strong. So the second run must have started like another hour later. I didn't charge the battery because there was still plenty of juice in it, and I was running. I ran a 20.868, 20.8. Okay, wow, we went from 19.2 to 28. Okay, so like the headwind made a big difference. I'm telling you, if the wind just blows hard, you'll lose a couple miles an hour, man. That's just the way this bike is. It doesn't have a whole lot of power, and it's really lightweight, and it's naked. There's no fairings and stuff on it. I'd imagine if you probably put some kind of fairing on the Soran, you probably get a little bit better and more top speed. Aerodynamics makes a big difference on this little guy. So yeah, 20.8, and we hit 59 miles per hour at the end of the track. So now my reaction time was horrible on that one. It was 0.75. I don't know what happened. I had like a brain fart or something. I twisted the throttle too late, or I took off too late. I was like saying, you know what? Let's go on the right lane so we can exit right away, because there's on the right lane there's 2 exits. There's like a first exit, an early exit, and then a later exit. And I was like, the later exit is like, it's kind of far. I feel like we're just wasting energy going down there, so I didn't want to do that. So I switched over to the right lane. So I got a 0.75 reaction time, and so when I was staging, I was like, yeah, we need to go deep stage, So my strategy of the night, my strategy with this bike is to deep stage all the time, because my reaction times suck, especially on this bike. The through riding this over and over, I found out like yeah, you want a deep stage because the reaction times for electric bikes kind of suck. You know, you have to figure out what your bike does. And like my Victory Impulse, the reaction time sucks on that bike because the the time it takes for when you twist the throttle to when the tires start spinning, there's a lag time, you know, and the same thing for the Suron, you know. The Suron's a little bit better than the Impulse, though, I'll tell you that. Um, so even with my little regen launch thingy, launch control, it's still, you know, I'm still not getting like super good reaction times. But this one was particularly bad because I think I was trying to deep stage, and I kind of had like a brain fart or something. For some reason I was thinking like the top two lights mean you're deep staged, but it was the opposite. It's like that means you're shallow, and then when all of four lights light up, that means you're like in the middle, and then when the bottom two lights light up, that means you're deep stage. So because it'll kind of go like this. It'll go top light, all the lights, and then the bottom lights, the deep stage. So what I'm talking about is the staging lights. Okay, you can have be a little bit forward, a little bit back, or like in the middle somewhere. You know, and I normally you probably just want to stay in the middle. You know, but if you want the best reaction time, that puts you closer to the beams. You deep stage a little bit, and that's what I did, and that's how I was able. I know this bike has some pretty bad reaction time, so. So it's better to It's better to always deep stage with this bike. Okay, so yeah, I got a 0.75 because like I don't know when the two lights went on, I was like, oh wait, I think I messed up. I think I have to keep on going, and then I see the light, it's already turned green, so I just go. So that's why my reaction time sucked. But we got a 20.8 on that one. Okay. And then so for the third race, oh my god, we were waiting. We had to be waiting another hour, you know. Oh yeah, and I didn't talk about there was a headwind on the second run. The wind was blowing pretty hard, so yeah, we definitely the headwind took us from 70 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour. Can you believe that? 10 miles an hour difference, and it bumped our time up to like almost a second, 20.8. So we went from 19.2 to 20.8. So the third round is the race, Elimination. So that like we didn't get a third run. Normally, if there's not that many people, you get 3 runs because that's from my experience, you know. So a good thing to do, those 3 practice runs, that's your dial-in time. That's the time you got to figure out like, hey, you know, what times am I running tonight, you know? And I got one that's really fast and then one that's kind of slow. So it's just like, what the hell? What am I supposed to pick? I got a 19.2 and a 28. So I'm like, so I split the difference. That's what I did. I was like, well, maybe we might go faster next time. I don't know. I'm not sure. I might because I kind of flubbed the second run. I had a bad reaction time. So I decided like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna split the difference. So 20 seconds was like in between 19.2 and 28. So I was like, okay, I did 20 flat. So, and it was funny, dude. The guy I that was dialing in my times, he was like, 20 seconds? Is it that slow? I'm like, yeah, it's that slow. It's so funny, man. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's slow. And then, so I was racing a CBR 1000 double R, an 11-second bike. I made that poor guy wait like 8 seconds to catch up to me. Okay, so yeah. So the reaction time. So my reaction time was actually twice as good as the other dude I raced. So that kind of makes your time better. So basically, my 8 tenths of a second, I could knock off 2/10 of a second. No, I could knock off I could almost knock 3/10 of a second off my time, my gap basically, and that puts me at like 0.6 seconds. 0.6 seconds. So if you subtract his was half a second, so 0.5 seconds. So you subtract 0.5 seconds from his gap of 3/10. Oh my God, that's really close. let me see, 0.5. Yeah, so he adds half a second to his time. So maybe that's not that. No, yeah, 8 and 6. 6, 8, 6. Yeah, it was really close. The yeah. Wait a minute. How does this work? It's 3/10 of a second plus half a second. So he was 3/10, 3.5. So he's 3.5 off from his time. And then mine, I'm like my reaction time was a little bit better. Like let's say like 0.2 seconds, almost quarter of a second better. So I can add that to my time. Yeah, it only puts me around like 0.6 or 7. Well, anyway, the difference was two tenths of a sec. 2/10 of a second. He's making lost by 2/10 of a second. So yeah, that was the difference on the time slip. So it was 0.1971, actually less than 2/10 of a second. So that's how close that race was. It was really close. I remember I saw him pass the finish line before me. So I was like, I think we lost. So and then like when I looked at this, I was like, holy crap! It was a really close race. So yeah, it was the last race was actually really good. So, but I tell you, had I dialed in 20.8, we would have won, and because we would have been 15 hundredths of a second. We would have been 15 hundredths of a second from our dial-in time. We would have been right on the money. He was 3/10 of a second, and we would have been 15 hundredths of a second. So we would have won if I had dialed in the time that I got last time. So yeah, that's the way of drag racing works, man. I wasn't confident on my dial-in, so I didn't really know, but that just goes to show how consistent this bike is for drag racing. Also I did charge it. I charged it after the second run. I charged it back to 100% ish. That was a really close. It was a really close race. But had I put my dial-in time from the last run, I definitely would have won. But that's really interesting. That shows how consistent this bike is. This is a great drag racing bike because it's very consistent. It's not fast, but it's very consistent. And it's even more consistent now that I have the regen throttle launch. I think it works. It works really good. I wish I could have got more runs. I only got 3 runs tonight. I got 2 practice runs and then 1 elimination run. So, I didn't have a lot of data to go off of. It's kind of like when you go to a shooting range. When there's a shooting competition, you need to zero your weapon, right? Before you go shoot the competition. Well, you only get like a certain amount of rounds and time to make sure your weapon is sighted in. Well, it's the same thing with drag racing. Your weapon is your machine, and yeah, it's pretty. So after the elimination round, I was dialed in. I knew we could probably run 28 again. So yeah, I was like, man, if we had one more practice run, if that elimination run was a practice run, and then I saw that with 28, we ran 28 twice. I'm gonna put 28 or maybe 29. Maybe put 29 just to be safe, so you don't break out. Yeah. So had I put that time in, the second run time, the second practice time in, I would have won that one. So I don't know but that's that's what happens, man. Sometimes you do really good, and sometimes you get eliminated right away. So it happens. So yeah. I was wanting to come back the next week, but they're not racing next week. I think the week after that. So I'm thinking next week I'm gonna do a track day. We're gonna go back to Sonoma, but we're gonna ride on the kart track this time. So I've never taken this thing to the kart track with the regen throttle and with the Lightspeed battery and with my little heatsink here. So I had no problem with heat at all today. Really, the bike only has to be fast for like a quarter mile. So yeah, let's talk about how the bike did and what we could do better next time. So the controller yeah, I had the heatsink on the controller. We didn't really need it tonight, man. I really need the bike to go be fast for like a quarter mile. That's not much, you know. But it does eat up a lot of power. I think I got it close to like 90% on the second run. It just gobbles up power. It was set at 15,000 watts, 40% field weakening, and it's the current limits are like all the way maxed out. So yeah, it was running pretty. It ran pretty good. It didn't have any hiccups. However, for some reason, when my headlight is on, the bike doesn't run very well. You don't really need headlights at the racetrack because they have a bunch of lights and stuff. So yeah, that's how you can get away with driving race bikes. You know, race bikes don't have headlights. So yeah. Yeah, the bike ran great. The bike ran great all night, and I did charge it between the second and the third runs. And but after we were done racing, I was riding around with the headlight, and like it kind of stutters a little bit when the headlight's on. I don't know why it does that. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. So it's really finicky. So yeah. So this is a 19-second bike now, down from 29 seconds. So I am actually very happy. I'm very impressed with the Lightspeed battery and the BAC 2000, how they did it in drag strip. But we were very lucky that there was a tailwind, so that we get our best time. And then the rest of the times were kind of 60 miles and 20.8. But that's still so the goal that Hades Omega had before before we got to the track, my goal was to get into sub 20. And then I was looking at my video about when I raced the Hayabusa. It said 29 seconds, and I'm like, 29 seconds to sub 20? That's a big jump, man. That's a big jump. That's almost 10 seconds. And we did it. I could not believe it. The first run, we did it. We hit sub 20 the first run. I could not believe it, dude. And then the next run was 20.8. That's still pretty close. It's still pretty close to 20. So you figure on average, this is a 20-second bike. If the conditions are favorable, 19-second quarter mile. So 70 miles an hour speed. So yeah, that was pretty good. I could not believe it. I was like, wow, we did it already. After the first one, I was like, man, I'm already happy. If we lost, if I could go home happy already. I already accomplished my goal. We got a 19-second bike now. So, okay. So what improvements can we make? So this bike, for some reason, it ramps up speed really slow. When I guess there must be some kind of programming in it where it doesn't give you the power right away when you twist the throttle all the way, because it's still kind of slow. Yeah, it's really laggy. Like I mentioned, it's got like a 2-stroke power band. There's no power at the lower RPM, but once the RPMs pick up, it takes off like a freaking rocket. Okay, so it shouldn't be like that. It's an electric bike. Electric bikes are supposed to have a lot of torque. So there's 2 things we can do. We can try to program the controller to give us more power sooner, but Alan showed me he's updating the firmware for the NXT display, and there's an option where you can adjust how sensitive or aggressive the throttle is. So if we can make the throttle more aggressive, give us the power faster, then our bike will be a lot faster, because it takes off so slow. Like once I dump the regen throttle and it takes off, I'm like, oh my god, it's so slow. It's like time slows down a little bit before you start speeding up. It's this weirdest sensation, man. Like man, it's so slow, the takeoff. So another thing we can do to help that is to put a bigger sprocket. So what I could do is I have the 42 tooth sprocket. We could probably put the 48 tooth sprocket. If we put too big a sprocket, our top speed is going to go down. So we don't probably. I think I put the 48 tooth sprocket on before on the Supermoto wheels. It makes your top speed go from like 47 or 48 to like 45. You lose a couple mile an hour. So it's actually not too bad, and it's much better off the line. So I think a 48 would be good. So I think if we if we haven't upgraded the firmware to the RC7 that Alan is working on by then, but that's good because we have 2 weeks till the next race, so I got time to tune the bike again. So yeah, um, we can we can put a bigger sprocket, or we can program the controller to give us more power. But I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. So once Alan rolls out the new firmware update, then hopefully we can get some more power through the throttle. Also, I think the throttle box is kind of messed up on this. I think I need to replace it. It sometimes the throttle input is like too high, and I can hear the bike it's wanting to roll when there's no throttle input. So that might be why my headlight is kind of when the headlight is on, it's kind of glitchy. So yeah, that's I think the throttle box needs to be replaced on this bike. So that we'll probably do that before the next race. And if we don't update the firmware, I'm gonna put the 48 2 sprocket on the Supermoto wheel. I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of top speed to get me more acceleration because it's just so freaking slow, man. It's so freaking slow at lower RPMs. It's slower than it was before. Okay, before I put the Lightspeed battery in the NXT display. So yeah, but definitely it was definite improvement since the last time I took it there. 10-second difference. 10-second, 29 down to 19 seconds. For the best runs. And then it was very consistent. It got 20.8 second runs in a row. So this is a great drag bike. That's what we'll say. I made a good drag bike. The good thing about the regen throttle also is like when you let go of the regen throttle, the handlebar doesn't move around. I notice on some of my drag racing videos, the bike pulls to the right when I twist the throttle, because you're twisting the throttle, you're kind of pulling the handlebar at the same time. This is the only bike I know that kind of does that a lot because it's so light, I guess. Now with the regen throttle, we're not doing that. With the regen throttle, we're full throttle already, and I just dump the throttle, okay, and then I hop on the bike, and then off we go. So the regen throttle works great. If you could have a regen button, that would be even better, okay? You know what I'm saying? You just have a button, you hold it down, and then it just turns the regen on and kills the throttle. You let go, and then boom, it takes off. Because it takes some time to let go of the paddle. It takes hundreds of a second to do it, but in drag racing, just fractions of a second make a difference, okay? Fractions of a second. So that's how precise everything is in drag racing and bracket drag racing. Okay. All right. So that's the end of the vlog. I hope that's the AAR for the Wednesday night drags. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I wish I had more runs. I wish I hadn't lost that last race. If I had dialed in 20.8, I would have won that one. But I didn't. So that's what happens, But I had a lot of fun, and it was great to be out there racing again. So yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Let's go. Hopefully we can improve the times. There's still some improvement to be had. All right.